TTE.
Go right ahead, K1DEG.
Yeah, that's one of you guys warning. TechNet's going to start in about a minute.
Alright, well, you can check me in if you want to, and what's it going to be about?
First, see if anyone has questions, and then I was thinking about the 6-meter band. Seems out that time of year.
As far as the 6-meter band, I have no input, but it sounds like a cool one, and I'll be listening. K1DEG.
Good evening. Welcome to the Northern Colorado Amateur Radio Club Monday Night TechNet. This is KA6ETE. It's Kilo Alpha 6 Echo Tango Echo. My name is Jim, and I'll be net control for this evening's TechNet. Looking for check-ins. Anyone wanting to check into tonight's net, please call now.
Good evening. November 0 Echo Mike Papa and 0 EMP Greg in Fort Collins.
This is Whiskey 0 Alpha Sierra Papa W0 ASP Terry in Berthoud.
Whiskey 0 Golf Whiskey Charlie in Nunn Dan.
Hey, good evening. K1DEG N0 EMP W0 ASP and W0 GWC. Anyone else wanting to check into tonight's TechNet, please call now.
This is Kilo Foxtrot 4 Delta Uniform Sierra KS4 DUS Horsetooth Mike. Kilo 0 Echo Victor Eric. AI 7 p.m. Echo 0 Charlie Foxtrot Ben Fort Collins.
Hey, got KF4DUS, K0EV, AI 7 PM, AF0CF. Anyone else wanting to check in tonight's TechNet, please call now. Hey, this is Kilo Alpha 6 Echo Tango Echo. Net control for this evening's Northern Colorado Amateur Radio Club TechNet. Looking for check-ins. Anyone wanting to check into tonight's TechNet, please call now.
Good evening. This is Alpha Echo 0 Golf Mike AE0GM George in Berthoud.
Good evening, George. One last round. Anyone wanting to check in? Tonight's TechNet. Please call now. There, nothing. We'll get started. As normal, you can check in anytime during the net or after the net. We'll take late check-ins. As usual, does anyone have any questions they've been trying to find the answer for, or anything in general for the net? Please call now. Hearing nothing. Thought of a topic, something that was brought up during last week's net. What time of year it is? The 6-meter band. It's that time of year to where you start getting some propagation on 6-meter. It's something that everyone licensed for amateur radio can use, amateur technicians included. They have full privileges on the 6-meter band. Anyone have anything they would like to start with or questions about 6-meter?
ASP, I can talk about why.
ASP, Terry, go ahead.
The physical reason why 6 meters and 10 meters opens up this time of year is because of a atmospheric phenomena called sporadic E. And sporadic E is very highly correlated to summer thunderstorm season. And we're still trying to work on the direct causal issues between why thunderstorms cause sporadic E, but it is well known historically that they are connected in time and seasonally. So the thunderstorms cause these sporadic E layers to form, and these sporadic E layers are very intense layers of ionization at low altitudes, 100 kilometers, and so they're very good for reflecting high frequencies up to about, even up to 2 meters. For fairly short distances, 1,000 kilometers or so. W0ASP back to net.
Thanks for that. That was in some of the notes I have. I actually found earlier that the regular propagation for 6-meter sporadic E propagation, that regular propagation can span a distance of up to 1,600 miles with the correct conditions, or you can get the multi-hop sporadic E propagation that can go as far as 6,200 miles, which allows people for intercontinental communications. Well, it's not the most reliable form of communication. It is something that will give technicians a taste of HF radio without having to get anything higher than a technician license. It is the lowest frequency available on the VHF frequencies, being at 50.0 to 54.0 megahertz. It does the VHF frequency with HF characteristics. That is why a lot of people refer to it as the magic band. It's there or it's not. It can disappear in an instant. See if anyone has anything they would like to add or any questions on the repeater resets.
N0 EMP.
EMP, Greg, go ahead.
Yeah, Terry covered why. I've got a couple points on how, as in how to operate it. Because it typically propagates over the ionosphere through sporadic E, polarization gets rotated anyway. So, in my experience, it hasn't really made a difference whether you're using a vertical or a horizontal antenna. I started with a vertical J-pole that was homemade until an ice storm broke it in half, and now I have a horizontal dipole just above my roof line. The voice USB calling frequency is 50.125 upper sideband, and during this time of year when an opening can occur at any time, I'll typically just leave a receiver parked there, either on a whip antenna or on my horizontal dipole, and leave the squelch open, and sometimes just all of a sudden voices will start coming in through the radio, and there will be an opening. And like you said, when it's open, it's open. I only run 100 watts and a simple dipole. Yesterday there was an opening, and I was talking to a guy in Arizona and two other guys in Louisiana, and it was just like talking on this repeater. And then when it fades out and closes, it's gone, and a kilowatt won't get through. And 0 EMP.
Yeah, thank you for that input, Greg. Yeah, that brings me to my very first contact on 6 meter was on a regular FM, not even using single sideband. All I had was the Yaesu 8900, which is their quad band radio. I got a contact from my house in Loveland down to Amarillo, Texas. I mean, it's only a few hundred miles away, but I was only using the 50 watt FM and a diamond discone antenna, which is their multi-band scanner antenna that worked good for 6 meter. So now I have a wire dipole up above my roof that I use for 6 meter and HF. So I haven't really noticed much of a difference either between vertical or horizontal antennas on 6 meter. That's the repeater reset. Nice website that I just came across a couple weeks ago in regards to HF for propagation reports is www.dxmaps.com. It's software website where people enter contacts, and it's up to date live feed. Pretty much it updates, I think, every 10 minutes of where recent contacts are. It gives you a map description of where the contact originated and where it went to. You can use it for all bands, anything from the gigahertz all the way up to 160 meter. And it's interesting. You just pull up the website and you can check the 6 meter band, 10 meter, 20 meter, and see how good propagation reports are from actual users in real time, which I tend to like. I can pull it up on my phone and look, and if propagation's going good on HF or 6 meter, I can go turn the radio on. Anyone have any questions or comments on 6 meter for the net. Please call now.
WA5 VRL, Fort Collins.
VRL, go ahead. You have a question or just check in?
You could check me in and out. Just had a couple of comments. First of all, our latest opening was last Sunday morning from 6 a.m. and I gave up on it about 9 a.m. and it was still going strong. The areas coming in were 0s, 9s, 7s, 4s, 3s, XE2 from Mexico, 5s, 7s, and something else I can't remember. Anyway, one of the best ways to check for openings, since everybody's crazy about this FT8 mode, is to simply tune USB receiver to the FT8 frequency on 6 meters, which is 50.313. Even if you don't have the WSJT software to decode it, you will hear the heterodynes. In fact, the band 6 meters is open right now. The calls that I'm hearing is N5 HHS, HHS, WB7 CJO, K4 IQJ, K0 YY. Anyway, 6 meters is open. And one of the things related to the openings, as they mentioned, was the sporadic E. It's the same part of the phenomenon that they've been observing with the sprites and jets that are caused by electrical storms. Because electrical storms are not in your area doesn't mean they aren't occurring elsewhere in the U.S., generating propagation to other locations. So if you look at the U.S. map for thunderstorms and see some stuff, it's worth checking to see if there's an opening. Anyway, back to that. Have a good evening. WA5 VRL.
Yeah, thank you for that comment. Tuning in to known frequencies is always another way to check for propagation. They are low signal propagation, but if you hear something, there is something there. Whether it's full signal or partial signal, you know the opening's coming, or they're already. This is Kilo Alpha 6 Echo Tango Echo, net control for this evening's TechNet. Do we have any additional questions or comments? Please call now.
Zero ASP with a comment.
ASP, Terry, go ahead.
Just a little clarification on the physics here. Certainly, sprites and jets are directly related to lightning bolts, and these are very transient phenomena. They last for much less than a second or so. The sporadic E layers that we are using that last for minutes really have to do with the convection, the thermal convection of energy due to thunderstorms, and they change the convection patterns of winds up at about 100 kilometers. So the connection between thunderstorms and a sporadic E is not immediate. You are not going to get a sporadic E connection directly above a thunderstorm. It's more loosely connected to that. It's more seasonal. W0 ASP, back to net.
Definitely, thanks for adding in that clarification on it. There's stuff that definitely helps it. That's the way I look at it, is thunderstorm season is just the timing that it occurs. I mean, it's not directly related or directly affected, so to say, but you can judge it on the time of season. The activity, the peak for 6 meter is between May and August in the northern hemisphere. And I think it's between October and March in the southern hemisphere. And so that you're not going to get communications in the southern hemisphere on 6 meter unless you get conditions just right and the right time in a year to where there is some type of propagation, but you're mostly going to be talking to almost always the northern hemisphere areas. One piece of information, or one thing that I found interesting was 6 meter has not always been associated with amateur radio. It wasn't until 1947 that 6 meter band was allocated for amateur radio use for Region 2 and 3. Region 1, there are some countries that use 6 meter primarily and strictly for military use. And so it's definitely something you got to watch a little bit more on who you're communicating with to make sure you're doing it legally. Let the repeater reset. Another thing I know, it was mentioned that 50.125 was the national calling frequency for the upper sideband or single sideband. If you don't have a radio capable of single sideband, they do have the national FM calling frequency for 6 meter, which is 52.02 through 52.04. They tune to either one of them, or in between there, it's the national frequency for FM. Do we have any questions or comments for the net? Please call now.
This is 0WIQ. I would like to know what's being talked about the most on this net. So, back to net.
Hey Gary, yeah, we're talking about 6 meter or propagation, use, and different aspects of 6 meter, with it being during the peak of 6 meter propagation. I figured that was a good topic for the net and something that everyone that's licensed for amateur radio can use, technician through extra.
Okay, well, when I was a young person, like still at home with my parents, in the early years, my father was an amateur radio operator. We'd be watching television on Channel 3, and see the bark housing in the image on the television. At that point in time, he decided to go play 6 meters because it would have some skip going on at the same time.
Or ASP with a comment.
ASP, go ahead.
His observation is extremely relevant, and because that's exactly how I determine how we're going to get propagation on 6 meters. We listen to television signals, DX, and when the carriers from the modern DTV signals come in strongly and consistently, then I know that a particular channel is open from my location to where that transmitter is located. So the whole thing about long distance television propagation is absolutely real.
Yeah, definitely. I know. One thing I'll add, the more the common uses for 6 meter is listed, but not necessarily in this area, but what it's used for: AM simplex, FM simplex, FM repeater. So there are some 6 meter repeaters, none around here that I'm aware of. Can use it for the Earth, Moon, Earth bounce, sporadic E, auroral reflection, WSJT digital modes, packet radio, single sideband, Morse code DX, and some radio control devices even use 6 meter frequencies. Let the repeater reset. There's a lot of different ways to use it, a lot of different instances where it works and where it doesn't work. I know for me, one thing I enjoy with amateur radio is all the different types of communications that you can take part in. It's one thing, I know we had the net talking about satellite communications, but then look at other methods like the Earth, Moon, Earth bounce, to where you bounce a signal off of the moon. Something like that, to get a signal to travel so far away and bounce back and so on, to be able to hear it, just I find intriguing and amazing. Something I'm definitely working towards. I know it's not the easiest type of propagation or easiest thing to do, same with meteor scatter or aurora reflection, but it's all something to try and something to learn. Anyone have any questions or comments for the net on the topic of 6 meter? Whether it's antennas, anything general, please call now.
EMP.
There's a queue with a comment.
Okay, WIQ, hold on a minute. Greg, go ahead with your comment.
Yeah, my comment earlier that for DX, polarization doesn't seem to matter because it rotates anyway. For local communications, it definitely does matter. All the stations talking to each other locally can either all be vertical or all be horizontal. But if you're cross-polarized for local communications on 6 meters, where someone's vertical and the other person's horizontal, the attenuation of the signal is very dramatic. You can go from being able to have a QSO with 5 watts to not being able to have a QSO with 50 watts. It can be that dramatic. The other thing is for local QSOs, on upper sideband, you can call on the national calling frequency, 50.125. But if you make a local contact and you're going to keep chatting, you should move off that frequency, because there's people that monitor it for long distance openings and they get unhappy if you camp out there for local QSOs. And 0 EMP.
Yeah, thank you for that comment, Greg. Carrie, WIQ, go ahead with your comment.
Often hear 6 meters being advertised as a plastic magic band. And the reason is the 6 meters is a long enough wavelength that it will skip by bouncing off the ionosphere when big sunspot situation to ionize the ionosphere. And so 6 meters will skip sometimes, and otherwise it's moderate range or even long range when you use it otherwise too. But the magic band is because it will skip sometimes and other times it won't. So such is life. Back to net.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for that comment, Kerry. That's comes down to that's why it's either there or it's not there. If there's nothing there for it to reflect back down out of the sporadic E, then it's not going to be there. It's just going to keep going through. You're not going to get nothing. This is Kilo Alpha 6 Echo Tango Echo net control for this evening's NCARC TechNet. Do we have any questions or comments so far for the net? Please call now.
Use 0 ASP to correct another misconception.
ASP, go ahead.
Meters and propagation have nothing to do with sunspots, nothing to do with solar activity, nothing to do with magnetic activity. These are all due to tropospheric effects in the lower thermosphere. There may be exceptions to what I just said, but they're quite rare. This is seasonal, and it's atmospheric phenomena. It's not sunspots, and it's not magnetic activity.
Yeah, thanks for that. It's always good to have people on that know a lot more than I do. But it's always nice to have things cleared up and learn something new. See if anyone has any questions while I look for something else I had written down real quick. Anyone have any questions for the net? Call now. Kilo Alpha 6 Echo Tango Echo net control for this evening's TechNet. One thing I just happened to come across in my notes is that I haven't checked too much more into it, but they have a subband reserved for RC telecommand models that run between 50.79 and 50.99 megahertz. There's 10 specified frequencies that are spaced 20 kilohertz apart. They're for the telecommand for radio-controlled aircraft. I know that's a whole nother topic with the RC world and FPV flights using amateur band, but that could be another topic of discussion. Anyone have any questions or comments for the net? Please call now. Hear nothing. I know I'll say this for those that have a technician license and don't have a radio or antenna for doing 6 meter. They might have the radio if they buy a quad band radio. You can build a 6 meter single frequency antenna or single band antenna fairly cheap and fairly easily. With it being 6 meters, the length of them are relatively short when compared to once you get up to the 20 meter and 40 meter lengths. And you can, a 6 meter antenna, is full wavelength is roughly 18 feet, so you can build half wavelength vertical or even a half wavelength dipole and have 10, 11 feet depending on material you use. Something to get on the air and try long distance single sideband simplex communications. I mean, it's interesting to learn and another part of the hobby that a lot of people enjoy. Like I said, there's multiple websites you can check for real-time propagation reports and listening into some TV frequency, AM TV frequencies that can give you whether a band's open or not. A lot of interesting stuff when it comes to 6 meter. If anyone have any questions or comments, please call now. Yeah, I just pulled up the band plan real quick so you can listen into some frequencies for see if there's any propagation. I know the single sideband calling frequency is 50.125. Digital packet calling is 50.62. Remote control is 50.8 through 51.0. The Pacific DX window is 51.0 through 51.1. FM simplex 52.02 and 52.04. Primary FM simplex is 52.525. That would be a primary FM simplex frequency, and a secondary FM simplex is 52.54. A lot of different things to try, ways to get in to learning a little bit about HF without having to have an HF radio, so to say. And it's something all technician level licenses are allowed to use. Full capabilities, no blockouts, no nothing. And you can use the entire band any mode you want. Any questions or comments, please call now. This is Kilo Alpha 6 Echo Tango Echo. We have any general questions for the net? Anything outside of 6 meter, within 6 meter, any questions in general? Please call now.
This is N0WIQ.
WIQ, Carrie, go ahead.
If you look around enough, you'll find out that RF is a lot like the light signals also. So you can use a fairly dark room, make a high intensity light, put it in a light type in a box, and make a small hole in it so that the light can come out, and you put a target in front of it and see how the light spreads out, just like the RF will spread out too. So you can have that So, and then you can have a reflective target to see how skip works also, but it has to be in a dark room because by the time you make a small hole in the box for the light to be held in, you make a small hole, and so the small light is fairly dim, so you have to have a darkened room. And it has to be probably about 10 foot across in that room. So anyway, such is life in the back of the net.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for that, Carrie. There's different little do-it-yourself ways to test and see how things react. And you could even put a scale model of the Earth in there within the center of the light and see how propagation goes. So you can see where the curvature is, even though the radio frequency does go further than light around the curvature of the Earth for your horizon. It does give you a good reference point for seeing how things react. Do we have any questions or late check-ins for the net? Please call now.
KU0UFJ late check-in.
We got that right? KE0UFJ? Are you checking in, or do you have a question also?
Uniform Foxtrot Juliet is correct. Just to check in, just appreciate the conversation.
You're welcome, and thank you for checking in. We have any other late check-ins for the net? Please call now. Hear nothing. I'd like to thank everyone that checked in and contributed to tonight's topic on 6-meter propagation and use. Give everyone a reminder, Wednesday night is the Northern Colorado Amateur Radio Club meeting at 6:30 with early check-in starting at 6 p.m. Look forward to hearing from everyone next week for the TechNet. And wish everyone a good evening. 7-3, this is Kilo Alpha 6, Echo Tango Echo. Opening the repeater for general use. Have a good night.
This presentation was brought to you by the Northern Colorado Amateur Radio Club. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.